Or the community we represent. That was pretty close. Wasn't bad. I think you know it by heart.
Happy New Year, everyone. I'd like to call the Mentor City Council regular meeting, January 3rd, 2023 to order. The invocation will be given by Councilperson Marn.
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. Help us to use good judgment for the business at hand and guide us in wisdom with a continuing sense of truth and fairness for the community we represent.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marn?
Here. Whoops. Go ahead. Yeah, I was supposed to do the oath, but that's good. We'll do it right after. Go.
Oh.
We have a council person getting sworn in tonight.
That's fine.
Mr. Freeman.
Where's the time to be sworn?
Mr. Freeman, I'll ask you to please raise your right hand and repeat after
Yeah,
me.
I hear you.
I state your full name.
I, Mark T. Freeman,
Solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and will obey the laws
and obey the laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Ohio.
and of the state of Ohio.
That I will,
That I will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
observe the provisions
observe the provisions
of the Charter and ordinances
of the Charter and the ordinances
of the municipality of Mentor,
of the municipality of Mentor,
and will faithfully
and will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office of Ward 3 Councilperson,
of the office of Ward 3 Councilperson,
unexpired term
unexpired term,
ending 12/31/23.
ending 12/31/23.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. I just want to thank the voters for giving me the opportunity to continue to serve the city of Mentor, and I look forward to continuing to work with the administration and my fellow council members on moving the city of Mentor forward. So thank you again, much appreciated.
Nice short speech, Mark. Good job. Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marn?
Yes.
Mr. Blake? Here. Mr. Donovan?
Here.
Mrs. Dowling? Here. Mr. Freeman?
Here.
Mr. Kirchner?
Here.
Mr. Krieger?
Here.
Council, we have a Senator Serino here tonight. He just got sworn in, drove all the way back to see us, and he's going to give us a little update on what's happening in the area.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you. Great to be here and to see all my old friends here. And by the way, before I begin, St. Joe's is open, is functioning at a very small percentage of what it used to be.
You were supposed to hear that.
But I did hear that, and thanks to Ray's generosity over the years of giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to the school to keep it open.
Waiting for it to be a part of it to be named after me.
They should name a hall after you at least. So thank you for having me here, and I am just fresh back from the first day of the 135th General Assembly. We just concluded last week the 134th, which was my first 2 years. And I thought it's also the first day of my new Senate district, District 18, same number, but the district has now changed as a result of the redistricting process that you heard so much about last year. So now I'm happy to say I have all of Lake County, which I didn't previously. I only didn't have the western part of the county. I had Mentor, except for the north end, because Mr. Krieger asked them not to include me in their district. But you now have me. And I will also have the eastern and southern portions of Cuyahoga County. So Richmond Heights, Mayfield, Gates Mills, Pepper Pike, all the way down to Solon, and all the way on 480 to Brecksville, Independence, Garfield, etc. So, and what I've been doing for the last 6 months in anticipation of this, I've been out meeting with the mayors and the city councils of the new part of the district, and I'm also obviously continuing to meet with the Lake County councils and mayors. And the reason I make a habit of doing that, and we'll be back again at some point, certainly. I don't want to be a pest, but want to keep you up to date. It's really important that I'm your representative in Columbus, and you're the largest city in my district. And it's important for me to not only tell you what we're up to, but also to listen and pay attention to what the needs are of the cities and all the political subdivisions in the district. So not everybody does it that way. That's just my personal way of doing it. I think it's effective, and I think it really helps with communication. across the board. I wanted to just quickly run through a few things about the 134th General Assembly. We got a lot done, and we have a whole binder here, which I will not bore you with, of the bills we did. I was able to, fortunately, in my first year and a half, effectively, because this all happened by last June, have 6 bills in my first year and a half introduced and signed by the governor into law, which is a little bit above average for certainly for freshmen. But I hit the ground running and came to the Senate with a clear agenda of things that I wanted to get passed, and so didn't wait 6 months to get to know where the restrooms were. I wanted to act on behalf of my communities as quickly as possible. I co-sponsored 285 other pieces of legislation besides the ones that I sponsored, and a couple of them are notable. One is, you may have noticed in the November election that when you voted for the Supreme Court and the Courts of Appeals, that there was a political party next to the judges' or candidates' names. And that's the first time in 100 years that we've had that in Ohio. We're one of the last states to do that. And one of the reasons Senator Gavarone and I co-sponsored that bill, it's always bothered me because on election day, like many of you probably, I get calls and text messages from people I know, family members that don't know the judges, and they want to know who should we vote for. Well, as a matter of fact, in the state of Ohio, in the last several elections, the ballot drop-off when you get down to the judicial races is 18%. So 18% of the people who are filling out the rest of the ballot skip the judges. And that's not a good idea. Even though our overall turnout in Ohio has been really good in the last couple of elections, that's not right. And so we were happy to co-sponsor that bill because what it did was, this past November, the drop-off was 2%, not 18% as it has been. So we know and believe it worked. And, you know, people have argued, you know, it's political, one party versus the other. I don't think so. That was not the motivation. The motivation was to get more people to at least learn something about the candidates so that they're motivated to complete the ballot and vote for judges. And we're really proud of the results that we got from that one. I think I talked with you last time I was here about a bill I was working on, Senate Bill 135, on higher education reform, and we were able to pass that bill. We passed it out of the Senate in 21. It went to the House and kind of languished over the summer, and we were able to get that bill passed this year, and it passed unanimously in the House. Total bipartisan support for the bill, and it passed in the Senate when it came back after the House made a few changes, came back with all but one vote, so it was almost unanimous. And that bill focused on a whole bunch of things to make higher education in Ohio, for which we pay dearly, not only in state budget funds, but also those of us parents and grandparents who are helping with tuition. We pay dearly for our higher education, and we need to make sure that it's keeping up with the times and is going to get better and better, and that we deliver the right product for our constituents. We also did a lot of budget work, and I'm happy to say that for Lake County and for Mentor particularly, we had a really good year, a really good 134th in total. You know, we were able to support the Mentor Marsh project. Almost it was $500,000 for the AWT project, which is of course here in Mentor, but will benefit lots of communities and help deal with the workforce shortages that we're seeing around here. We got a share. We're not sure what the final number is, but the captains will get a share of $32 million that we earmarked this past December for minor league sports teams. There's 7 of them in the state that will share that money to be able to upgrade themselves. And really, it's mainly making up for lost revenue from the COVID period when they weren't playing, certainly, and that was the goal with that. And I'm happy to say, as I think you all know, that we were able to get a combination of general fund dollars and capital budget dollars, $3.5 million to really jumpstart the Mentor Harbor project. That still needs more, but at least we have a good start with $3.5 million to deal with that. We don't want that harbor to close. It is public access, and we simply can't let anything happen to it. We also were able to get, and it doesn't directly impact Mentor, but it's the county, was $11 million for the dredging of the Grand River project and dealing with the dredged materials. Not so much the dredging. The Army Corps does the actual dredging. This was what to do with the dredged material, because you can't dump it in the lake like we used to. So that project is up and running, and the dredging has been going on, and it will continue certainly into this coming summer. We also did a few things in this last go-around. One is that we did something on the agricultural linked project, and that has to do with using the Treasury Department, the treasurers of the state, using their balance sheet, which is quite large, let's put it that way. And it's very liquid, and what we allowed the treasurer to do was to expand the AgLink program, which allows growers and those that are involved in the agricultural and horticultural space, allows them to borrow at very, very reduced market rates, which when we passed that a year ago, we didn't really see the inflation coming the way it was. It is really an important program now because these folks are just experiencing a combination of high interest rates for borrowing to do their crops, which they typically do, but also the cost of the materials, that they're having to use in order to plant and to keep things from happening to their crops. Some of those prices have gone up 250%. And so we're helping to mitigate that a little bit by allowing them to access cheap money guaranteed by the state. We also, just in this last budget go-around, did a few things. One is that we dealt with, and this may not be an exciting topic to some of you, but Lake County and Mentor has funeral homes in it, right? And we were approached by those in the organizations around the state about the need to reform a lot of old laws regarding funerary regulations. And I was happy to sponsor that bill. I'm not sure why the funeral directors selected me to be their sponsor, but it did. It was originally supposed to be a very simple bill. It was a cleanup, and nobody could argue with these reforms until we got the cemeteries in the same room with the funeral home folks. And it took 8 hearings in my committee, and it took probably 7 interested party meetings to try to negotiate, various aspects of the bill. And as I remarked to the funeral home people that after I was exhausted from all of those meetings, that this bill is just killing me, and they didn't think that was too funny. But anyway. So we also, just in this last budget bill, did some things to help with adoption. Previously in Ohio law, there was a state income tax credit for adoptions, up to $10,000 over, and you could spread it out over 5 years if your tax liability wasn't that big. We've now scrapped that, and because we want to encourage adoptions in Ohio, and we're now making grants of $10,000, $15,000, and $20,000 at the time of adoption to the adopting parents. And the 3 different numbers are for, are you adopting from a family that is already, or if you're a family that has already taken temporary custody of the children? Is it somebody who has special needs? That's the $20,000 range. And we also added to that $3 million for pregnancy crisis centers around the state because they're very underfunded. We have one big one here in Mentor, as a matter of fact. So we're trying to do the things that we think are important for improving the lives and that in Ohio, but also making sure that we stick to the core values that we think are important here. In the 135th General Assembly, we're going to be focusing on a number of things. One is we're going to continue focusing on higher ed, and I'm expecting to be named chairman of the higher ed committee in the Senate in a few weeks. And we're going to be doing some very aggressive things to continue to make our higher education. And these are the 14 public universities that we have purview over, and the 22, I think it's 22 or 23 community colleges that the state has responsibility for or are taxpayer funded. We have a lot of work to do there in a lot of different areas because I think our higher ed in Ohio has gotten a little bit behind the curve, and the dynamics are changing a lot, somewhat driven by COVID, certainly, but also driven by workforce shortages that we have. And we're asking ourselves, are our educational institutions meeting the needs, producing the programs, producing the graduates in the areas that are meaningful for companies in the state of Ohio? If we don't have the right employees trained in the right ways, economic development is going to be very much behind. We're also going to be looking at continuing to focus on how we can make our taxes lower, the state income tax. Last year we did, in the budget, we did bracket changes. We reduced several brackets. We also increased the amount of money that one can earn without having any tax liability to $25,000. We're also going to be taking a really hard look, as we always have, at regulations. Okay, and we have some internal rules about creating regulations and the need to offset one that we add by taking 3 away. And it doesn't always work quite that simply, but that's the goal, certainly. And I think we've made a lot of progress in making it easier for businesses to operate, less complicated, and yet still not putting anybody in Ohio in harm's way because of regulations that we might eliminate. And that will be very much ongoing. So again, we're looking to make sure we take care of our communities. And I take very seriously, having experienced my time as a commissioner right here in Lake County, and many of you helped me get that office. Sean, particularly, I always like to call Sean out because, you know, we knocked down a lot of doors together. And I got to use the yellow car, I think, once, maybe, for a parade. I think I scratched it, and he said, "That's it, you know, you're done." But we have to take care of our communities. And, you know, there's a lot of policies that flow through Columbus that most of my colleagues have not been county commissioners or any other local elected officials. Very few of them have been business people. And when it comes to regulations, I can't tell you how many times I've sat in caucus meetings or discussions on bills that involve and impact businesses and economic development, and many of the assumptions are just wrong. They're not rooted in experience, and I'm happy to be able to provide that. We don't want all business people in the Senate, but we need to have some, certainly, to make sure that we understand what we're looking to regulate, and if we think something is an incentive, we want to make sure that it really is. So I'm going to be keeping my eye on that very closely in the next 6 years I have in the Senate. My term will be up at the end of 24, so I'll be planning to run for re-election, certainly. And we'll continue focusing on the things that I think are very important to make sure we support our communities. First responders, we are our majority in the Senate. And by the way, we have 33 senators, and we gained a seat for the Republicans this past election, so we now have 26, which is a very solid majority, and a supermajority will enable us to get a lot of things done that we think are important. But again, my focus in my term here is on making sure that we support the communities, we support businesses, and we support the good values that we know are important for families to enjoy their freedom in the state of Ohio and to thrive economically in the state of Ohio. I'd be happy to take any questions if anyone has any. By the way, I'd like to introduce my grandson, Joe. He came with me to Columbus today. He's an Ohio State student, a sophomore.
I'm sure Joe wants to speak, right?
He'd be happy to, I'm sure. He'll never forgive me if I make him do that. But he spent the day with me down in Columbus and is looking to be a page at some point down there. And this is his government day, and this is the capstone to his government day here at Mentor City Council. Any questions that I could answer or observations?
Council, any questions? We're going to let you go eat dinner now.
All right. I'm going to go watch some basketball.
Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, you're in receipt of the November 29, 2022 work session.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call a roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Council, you're also in receipt of the December 6th, 2022 regular meeting.
Move to approve?
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Tabled legislation, ordinance number 22-0-095.
Mr. President, I would
Mr.
move
Kirschner?
to remove this from the table.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. President, I would move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll. He's,
We already read it. It's already been read 3 times.
yeah, we got it.
Oh, that's what I thought.
We're good, right?
but
If there's been 3 readings, I did.
I Move to approve.
No, we eliminated it on that vote,
Oh, you
correct?
did? Okay, just want to make sure. Second.
Mr. Zeman, correct?
If it's gone to 3 readings already, I just
We
didn't
could
have
do
any
it if you wanna
recollection.
make sure,
Yeah,
but
let's
I'm
do
not
it.
Quite sure.
Go ahead, Scott. You second?
Yes.
Julie,
Second.
please call the roll.
Okay.
This is
Mr. Marne?
to suspend.
Suspend or to approve?
To
Suspend.
suspend.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
No.
Mr. Blake?
No.
Mr. Donovan?
No.
Mrs. Dowling?
No.
Mr. Freeman?
No.
Mr. Kirchner?
No.
Mr. Krieger?
No.
Just as a footnote to this no vote, this is only being denied this evening because council is working on an upgraded version of its handbook, which will be forthcoming in the near future.
Ordinance number 22-0-095 is, what did we do? Denied. New legislation, ordinance number 23-0-001.
An ordinance repealing Part 13, Title 5, Chapter 1352 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Mentor 2006 as amended, reenacting, amending, revising, and enacting for codification purposes, new Chapter 1352, Comprehensive Stormwater Management, Sections 1352.01 through 1352.99 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Mentor and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll ask Mr. Swigger to make some comments, and his comments will actually be applicable to both ordinance 001 and 002. Mr. Swigger?
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. City of Mentor is currently covered under Ohio EPA's MS4 stormwater permitting program for small municipal separate storm sewer systems. Ohio EPA's MS4 permit requires the city to update its stormwater management and erosion and sediment control ordinances to follow standards found in Ohio EPA's most current construction general permit. Over the years, the Ohio EPA has made various changes to their technical requirements for water quality treatment and erosion and sediment control. This has resulted in changes being made to Mentor's ordinances at the same time to maintain compliance with Ohio EPA's regulations. Proposed changes to Mentor's regulations for stormwater management and erosion and sediment control will now require designers and developers to meet Ohio EPA's most current permit requirements without reiterating them in the city's code of ordinances. Referencing, these requirements directly from Ohio EPA will result in fewer changes to Mentor's regulations when Ohio EPA updates their standards. Some recent changes made by the Ohio EPA for water quality treatment include increasing precipitation depth, that would be rainfall precipitation depth, to be treated from 0.75 inches of rain to 0.9 inches, a reduction from 5 acres to 2 acres for capture and treatment of water quality volume, revision of post-construction practices approved for general use. Other changes made to the city's stormwater management and erosion control ordinances include referencing definitions contained in Ohio EPA's construction general permit, requiring water quality treatment and erosion and sediment control plans to meet the requirements of Ohio EPA's current general construction permit, requiring the use of Ohio EPA's design tools found on the EPA's website, setting monetary penalties for enforcement of repeated erosion and sediment control violations to be deducted from the permit deposit for noncompliance, requiring inspection and maintenance agreements between the property owner and the city for stormwater control measures to be recorded with the county. Stormwater quantity control or flood control regulations are still present in Mentor's stormwater ordinance, with a few changes made as recommended by the Chagrin River Watershed Partners. such as requiring compliance with Ohio's dam safety law, in addition to federal and state environmental compliance requirements, requiring stormwater control measures to be designed in accordance with Ohio's Rainwater and Land Development Manual. We do require that, but it's not codified. To maintain compliance with Ohio EPA's MS4 permit requirements, it is recommended that the proposed changes to Chapter 1352 and 1353, as shown in the attachment ordinance, be adopted by the Mentor City Council. Thank you.
Council.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake? Yes. Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake? Yes. Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-001 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-002, Mr. Flippyak?
I had to read the title.
Oh, I'm sorry.
An or-
same.
An ordinance repealing Part 13, Title 5, Chapter 1353 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Mentor 2006 as amended, reenacting, amending, revising, and enacting for codification purposes new Chapter 1353, Erosion and Sediment Control, Sections 1353.01 through 1353.99 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Mentor and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippyak, same.
Nothing further.
Thank you. Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-002 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-003.
An ordinance authorizing pay differential to a city employee assigned to active military duty and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippyak, anything?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Fowler, please.
Thank you, Mr. Flippyak. This ordinance will allow us, the city, to pay Officer Eric Kupchak the difference in pay from his active military pay and his current city wages, as well as keeping him on health insurance.
And we want to make clear it's a pay differential.
Differential,
Yeah,
yes.
Thank you, sir. Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake? Yes. Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-003 is approved, and we wish him the best of luck. Ordinance number 23-0-004.
An ordinance approving the final subdivision and dedication plat of the Echo Hill Manor subdivision on Garfield Road at 8180 and 8188 Garfield Road in the RVG Village Green District.
Mr. Flippyak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Mitchell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Flippyak. Members of council, during the Planning Commission's review of the proposed subdivision at their December 8th, 2022 meeting, concerns were raised by the commission regarding the steeper elevation changes along the development's southern boundary and potential drainage impacts to future homes. The commission agreed to add a condition that no area of any sublot shall exceed a 3-to-1 slope, which the applicant agreed to during the meeting and is noted in condition number 10, which is part of the ordinance. The commission went ahead and recommended approval of the development plat with the conditions noted. However, following the meeting, the site elevation changes and concerns along the southern boundary were further discussed internally by the planning and engineering departments. The administration met with the developer's engineer and agreed that allowing a steeper slope along the backs of sublots 1 through 9 will actually allow for the drainage swale on each of the lots to be located further away from the developed homes, creating greater stability on each lot. Polaris Engineering provided a slope analysis plan, which is included in your packet, and demonstrated the difference between a 3-to-1 slope versus a 2-to-1 slope on the same lot, and are requesting a modification to condition number 10, as noted in their December 15th letter. The sketch with a 2-to-1 slope increases the potential usable area of the rear yard by as much as 12 feet. Based on this further analysis, the administration would recommend that condition number 10 be modified this evening. The recommended text would be, for condition number 10, no location on a property shall exceed a 3-to-1 slope except for sublots 1 through 9, which shall be allowed a 2-to-1 slope for improved rear yard drainage and stability. And I don't know if Mr. Swigger would like to comment any further on that, because he certainly weighed in on this. And we also, if the council should desire to hear from the Polaris Engineering representing the applicant, he is here tonight as well.
Sure, we'll hear from Mr. Swigger first. We had a nice conversation about why this may be a better solution to that problem. If you could, let us know what you did, your investigation really is, how much land it created, and why you think it's a better engineering design.
Yeah, as Ms. Mitchell mentioned, we did meet with the developer's engineer. We discussed our concerns with the original plan that showed the 3-to-1 slope along the rear yards of sublots 1 through 9. And it was really showing the drainage swale, the rear yard drainage swale, very much up against the structures that were proposed. We were concerned, and we felt that steepening that slope would allow that swale to be pushed further away from those homes. And it was very important to us that that swale be moved the maximum distance from those homes, so that if it ever does overflow, it doesn't end up in the basements of these homes. So we had a good conversation. We discussed the Planning Commission stipulation that was limiting slopes in the entire development to 3-to-1. One thing I would note, that the height of this slope is only around 12 feet high, not a very tall slope, not a very high slope. 2-to-1 slope versus a 3-to-1 slope, there's not much difference. A 3-to-1 slope is considered mowable in most construction terms. A 2-to-1 slope is a little bit steeper than that, so a 2-to-1 slope would typically be maintained in a natural sense as far as plantings and such. So we think that allowing those 9 sublots to be sloped at a 2-to-1 would be more beneficial in the sense that it moves the drainage swale further from the homes, and it does not create an unstable situation along the face of the slope. The degree of the slope, if you can think of a 1-to-1 slope as 45 degrees, the 2-to-1 is around 26 to 28 degrees. 3-to-1 around 16 degrees. So not much difference between a 2-to-1 to a 3-to-1 as far as the slope difference. It's about 8 degrees from the difference in the face of the slope. 26 from a 2-to-1 to an 18-degree slope for 3-to-1. So very similar, but it does allow for about 12 more feet of space.
That's what I was going to bring up. You with this change, you're gaining 12 more feet of backyard.
Well,
And you feel that the slope itself in the trench at the bottom of that slope is better 12 feet to 20 feet back than it is right up against the back of the house, where 3-to-1 would bring it? Is that what you're?
3-to-1 was originally showing it basically touching the homes.
Okay.
When we met with the engineer, he said there was a bit of a I wouldn't say error, but the drawing was slightly off. When they came back, they showed the swale further away from the homes. But we would feel better with the swale as maximized from the homes, another 12 feet or so. That would allow the swale to have it would be less likely to be affected by decks or patios, things like that could impede the drainage in that drainage swale. So in our opinion, the further the better, and allowing them to maximize the face of that slope to a 2-to-1 would in no way compromise the slope.
So Flippy, if you don't mind, I'm going to bring up the representative engineer for the developer just to give us how he feels about this situation and how you feel about the pond that was brought up at the southern part of the property, if you feel comfortable with this 2-to-1 to 3-to-1?
Sure. My name is Dustin Keeney with Polaris Engineering and Surveying. Do you need address and all that good stuff? 34600 Chardon Road, Willoughby Hills, Ohio 44094, representing the Echo Hill development. And yes, I know there was concerns brought up at the meeting, and you know, it's one of those situations where at the meeting, quite frankly, I've been doing this a long time, but I don't know if I got the jitters or whatever. And when some of the concerns were, the 3-to-1 will work, but as Mr. Swigger has represented, the thought is the 2-to-1 would work actually better in this instance, to get the drainage further away from the homes on sublots 1 through 9, and also allows a little bit more flexibility with the grading in the backyard area. And we would, part of our discussions when we met with the staff was to, as we go through the final engineering, to provide a mechanism to be able to pick up if there's a stormwater basin south of the site in the adjacent development, if that were to potentially ever overflow, which in theory it's designed not to, you know, based upon the city's engineering criteria. But if it were, we could provide a mechanism at the top of the slope to pick that up and direct the water to the west around the homes in the proposed development and into the wetland. So we feel, again, as Mr. Swigger said, that it provides a better plan and more opportunity to make that situation better.
Dusty, thank you. I guess I'm going to say, you mentioned that if the pond overflows, you would put in the overflow. I think, did the planning request you put that overflow in before it overflows? Is that, I don't know if that's in the conditions.
I believe the one that was discussed at planning was actually our basin to the north that we're constructing as part of our development. I believe they were talking about that basin.
On the north one, the lower one. Okay.
Correct. Right.
I think there was some concern about the higher one. Would you? And Kathy, I guess I'll go back to you. That's not a condition to put an overflow on the upper pond?
Well, I believe, and Mr. Swigger can confirm or correct me, but that would be vetted out through the engineering review process, which would follow the plat approval.
Okay.
We discussed basically controlling any emergency overflow from that pond with grading with this development. So
do we need to put that in as a condition, or are you going to go over that with?
We'll require
and
that
you're going
in
to
our
require that, okay. Council, anything else?
No, Mr. President, but I would move to amend condition number 10 to include the following language, except for sublots 1 through 9, which shall be allowed a 2-to-1 slope for improved rear yard drainage and stability.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes,
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
I would move to suspend as amended.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yeah, before I vote, I just want to make clear, this is only lots 1 through 9, and it seems to be a better, gives that backyard a little more space with a ditch not right outside their back door, so I'm a yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes,
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
move to approve as amended.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes,
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-004 is approved. Thank you for your work on that. Ordinance number 23-0-005.
An ordinance approving and authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with CDW Government LLC for information technology equipment, software, maintenance, and support for the Recreation Center and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flipiak?
Thank you, Mr. President. This comes from our IT department. This is equipment necessary to provide networking at the new Menor Recreation Facility. It includes 5 years of support and maintenance as well as licensing. And I'll give kudos to our IT director who has been able to negotiate this down to a pretty affordable price for us. This is off of the state bidding list as well.
Thank you, sir. Counsel?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-005 is approved. Council, we have a resolution number 23-R-101.
A resolution requesting an advance of funds collected for the benefit of the city of Mentor and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Malinowski, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, this is standard annual legislation that we ask for every January. It requests an advance payment from the county auditor on the collection of our real estate and property taxes. I would recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Resolution number 23-R-101 is approved. We have another resolution, number 23-R-101.
A resolution declaring a submerged land lease located adjacent to permanent parcel number 16D117A00022-0 does not interfere with municipal coastal improvements or plans with the city of Mentor Lake County, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Filipiak?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, Council. Council, this is the second one of these that you've seen recently. This is identical to the last. Essentially, Mr. and Mrs. Metcalf have made armor stone revetment improvements to protect their property at 9153 Jordan Drive in order for them to realize a submerged land lease through ODNR. The local legislative authority has to assert that it has no intentions of making improvements in that same general area. We've reviewed that area and have concluded that we would have no interest in doing so, so would request approval.
Thank you, sir.
Move to
Counsel?
suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Resolution number 23-R-101 is approved. Second readings, we have none. Third readings, we have none. Managers report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Residents are reminded that traffic safety starts with you. Be mindful of existing traffic conditions, drive defensively, and try to anticipate potential hazards. But the best thing that we can do is to simply observe the posted speed limit. Mentor Police monitor speeders in the interest of public safety, particularly in targeted enforcement areas, including school zones and neighborhoods. In order to reinforce driver behavior in these most sensitive speed control areas, the police department has undertaken a more rigorous approach to controlling speeding in our neighborhoods. Residents can expect more frequent traffic enforcement closer to home. If you are caught speeding, you may be ticketed, and depending on the infraction, you can lose your license. We'll be informing residents of the city's stepped-up neighborhood enforcement program through our online and social media platforms. We encourage all our residents and visitors to take your time and drive safely. The few minutes you save could save a life instead. The Mentor Senior Center is the largest in Lake County and offers hundreds of programs and activities to its members. Affordable memberships are available to all Lake County residents 55 and over. You can take advantage of homemade hot lunches, discounted trips, groups and clubs, health clinics, and much, much more, including the ever-popular Silver Sneakers program. Yearly memberships for Mentor residents are now just $10 and $15 for non-residents. Silver Sneakers memberships are available to seniors age 65 and over on eligible Medicare plans. Membership sign-up for 2023 is happening right now, and for more information, they can either call our senior center or visit us on our website at www.mentorseniorcenter.com. We remind and encourage our residents to sign up for access to the Lake County Wireless Emergency Notification System, otherwise known as WENS, to keep informed during emergencies and other events in our city and county. And during this last large storm event, we did see a big number of people sign up, new signups in that system, which is great. The system provides subscribers the option to receive notifications via text, email, or voice related to weather events, emergencies, road closures, and much more. Lake County residents can also sign up to receive community-specific alerts. Sign-ups take less than 60 seconds. It can help you and your family stay safe during an emergency. And residents can sign up today at www.lakeohioalert.com. Council, the fire department ended 2022 with their busiest year yet, safely managing 9,187 emergency calls for service. That's a 4% increase over last year. 84% of those were EMS calls. Project contractor SCT will begin construction activities this week on the Aqua Ohio water main replacement project on Finley Drive. The project consists of replacing approximately 2,400 feet of 6-inch water main and 6 fire hydrants. It's anticipated the project will last about 90 days, including pavement replacement, with lawn restoration expected in the spring. The Hendricks Road Bridge was reopened to traffic on December 21st. Minor work involving painting of the parapet walls will occur in the spring, as well as some restoration of lawns in that area. ODOT did remove the remaining construction and detour signage for the project today at the city's request. And finally, Council, we have 2 new businesses to announce. Noodles and Company at 9210 Menor Avenue, and Pickup USA Fitness at 81 Tyler Boulevard. We thank them for investment in the city, and we wish them great success going forward. That's all.
Thank you, sir. I guess I have one comment on the Silver Sneakers program. A lot of questions with the rec center on Heisley coming up. I understand that Silver Sneakers is not part of that, but we do have a comparable program. Is that what I understand?
So Silver Sneakers is available, as I just mentioned, through the senior
right.
center. That is obviously those Medicare eligible, and then some private insurance companies will also provide benefits for the Silver Sneakers program. I think we're still trying to ascertain whether or not it's a good fit for the new rec center, given the balance we need to find with memberships for its sustainability, and we'll be making that decision relatively soon.
We don't want to kill Silver Sneakers over here, or that would be a bad thing.
Well, and by the same token, we want to encourage membership as well.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Mr. President.
Mr. Marne.
No, Mr. Flipiak, you and your members of your staff, excellent job over the holidays in terms of plowing snow, police, and fire. It was quite brutal out there, as we both know, that morning. And everyone came. It was probably the worst possible time for a storm of that nature, being in the holiday season. But appreciate all you guys did in being out there as long as you were.
Appreciate those comments, Councilman. I do think it's important to point out that, when those storms hit, and I think we're extraordinarily fortunate that we didn't have the kind of electrical lines down and the loss of power that I think we expected, quite frankly. And so we were all, most of us got to stay home and stay warm, and our guys were working through the holidays and through those events. And so, they didn't get to enjoy some of that time with their families, so I appreciate those comments.
I think Wendy was surprised your phone wasn't ringing off the hook. Huh? He certainly was anticipating it.
Well, not getting that ice early was a huge help for us.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for the report. Clerk's correspondence.
Council's in receipt of the Menor Municipal Court on November 2022 month-end report. Council's also in receipt of a liquor permit transfer from M. Gasper Inc., DBA Slice Pizzeria at 7345 Center Street to Grandkids LLC at 7345 Center Street. And council is also in receipt of another liquor permit, and this is a new one, for Kiki's Customer Gift Baskets LLC at 7537 Menor Avenue, Suite 311. And that is all.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr.
Rob,
Martin.
one thing I forgot. You actually mentioned it. One thing I did learn, it didn't happen to me, but I'm sure the chief even knows about this, or the chiefs know about this, for people that have the home natural gas generator, Mrs. Dowling, myself, is that you're supposed to keep them clear from snow, because a lot of times drifts will build up next to them, and then with the intake and the air filter for the intake, and it'll freeze it. So I never thought about that. I've had mine for years. I've never had a problem. Of course, snow doesn't blow on that side of the house where it's at, but for other people, that, I know my brother-in-law, for example, in Mentor on the Lake, had that problem. They had lines down. So it's something that we should definitely put in our publications and keep out there. Even people with the more portable ones, they kind of keep them outside sometimes just to make sure that they work when they need them to work.
Scott, when I got home, I went in for part of the day on Friday, and when I got home, and my generator runs its test at 6 o'clock on Fridays. And I was listening very close to make sure that I heard that kick on because I was concerned, and it did. But you're right, and unfortunately, they're not always located in an easy spot
Right,
to
correct.
shovel. Mine isn't, so,
Pay for them, you want them to work, right?
yeah.
Thank you, sir. Council, you're on receipt of the Board and Building and Zoning Appeals, November 8th, 2022, and the Municipal Planning Commission, November 10th, 2022. Old business? New business, we have some boards to fill. Council, we have one elector of the City of Mentor to serve a 4-year term on the Board of Building and Zoning Appeals. Is there any nominations?
Mr. President,
Mr. Blake?
I would like to nominate Mike Mandato back to the BZA for another 4-year term.
I'd like to second that.
Julie, please call a roll. Oh, is there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Congratulations. Council, we have one elector of the City of Mentor to serve a 4-year term on the Municipal Planning Commission ending 12/31/2026.
Mr. President, I would move to nominate George Haddon.
I'd like to second.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Council? Oh, Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Haddon. Council, we have one elector of the City of Mentor to serve a 3-year term on the Fair Housing Board ending 12/31/2025.
Mr. President, I would move to nominate Fred Koch.
Second.
Council, any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Koch. Council, one elector of the City of Mentor to serve a 4-year term on the Tree Commission ending 12/31/2026.
Mr. President, I would like to nominate Jason Crookshanks to that position.
Second.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Crookshanks. Persons before council.
Mr. President,
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
I have
Kirchner?
one bit of housekeeping I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
I want a motion to move the November 7th, 2023 regular meeting to Wednesday, November 8th,
Okay.
2023, due to conflict with Election Day.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
That meeting is moved. We have 2 people before council. Teresa Farren, please come up and give us your name and address for the clerk, please.
Hello, I'm Teresa Farren, 6615 Center Street in Mentor, Ohio.
Thank you.
I'm coming forth, and thank you very much, Council, for allowing me to speak to you all, and also to the administration here. City of Mentor is a wonderful place. I did not like it when I first moved here 30 years ago. I was forced because I married a Mentor boy, but I've learned to, it's grown on me. His family was from here, and I do love Mentor. And I take pride in what our city looks like. And I live in the Mentor Square Apartments, which you probably think are very minuscule to you. You know, there's other developments with large homes. However, it's a very big eyesight when people come down 615. okay? And lately, the garbage has not been picked up for 2 weeks at a time. Garbage strewn to our neighbors, to the condominiums behind us. Okay, we're having vermin that we never had before, okay? And if you pay attention and you're on 615 and you look right, you can see it from the road. And that to me is not acceptable, not in the city of Mentor. Okay, I have been working with my councilman, which has been wonderful. I met him. You know, we've talked. Something needs to be done on a more regular basis. If I call, we're not allowed to call them. We don't know their number. They're Buildium. They're out of Maine, I believe, 350 people. Anyhow, you have to go through portals, and you have to request things through portals. If you request more than one time, they will charge you $500 for harassment. So, being that we cannot do that because $500 for harassment every time I want to ask for something to be done is a lot of money. Something needs to be done, though, with them. Okay? The snowstorm, another case in point. I'm a disabled, retired nurse. Okay? I have a husband who's disabled, uses a walker right now and having a rough time. Snowstorm came, yes, it was horrific. City of Mentor was wonderful. I saw them up and down, regardless. Okay, in that time, from Thursday to Tuesday, nobody addressed our snow drifts, which were about 4 to 5 feet in our sidewalks. And I did have contact with the administration here. They did send out, and I asked them to come and take pictures. Because according to your one ordinance, and I can't remember what it was, I think it's 531, somebody can help me with that, is that you have to maintain clear sidewalks, you know, hazards. This was a very hazardous condition. If the city fire department had to come in to the center of that square to get to anybody, it would have taken them an extra 2 to 3 minutes because of the snow piles. That created not only a health hazard for us, but a hazard all the way around. Okay, if there had been a fire, there's no way for us to run out anywhere, to be honest. You know, the snow piles. I'm just asking City Council, I'm asking the City of Mentor, what do we need to do? Do I call and complain every week when the garbage isn't picked up? Is that, you know, my job? That's great, I'll do it. Because I would rather have that than have a whole bunch of rats coming up from the lagoons onto the properties. I feel sorry for our neighbors. This never was like this. Okay, and I just really, I'm just asking for some help. Somewhere along the line, somebody can help me, guide me. Because, you know, you talk about the watershed problem, there's a ditch that has water in it that goes into the drainage system, I would presume, not assume, okay? And all of this, I mean, you're talking kitty litter, dog litter, you know, food going into this drainage system as well, probably. I'm not too sure about that. But my main goal is we need to do something with these property managers that are out of state that don't answer when we have a problem. So I guess I'm going to keep on calling the City of Mentor every time that garbage is emptied or overflowing. Is that what I do? Please.
Teresa, sounds like you're in a homeowners association situation.
No, we are
correct?
not.
No? So you're
They're apartments.
You're not waste management?
No.
Okay. Well, I'd have to go to councilman and say, what have we discovered?
Thank you, Council President. This has been an ongoing situation for a number of years, and I've been working with code enforcement. Just last month, the property managers were cited for that garbage that's overflowing. Personally, myself, I would love to see a surround put around the dumpsters, which would have doors that are on hinges but with springs to close them again.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't force them to do that. It would be great if they would, but I look for our code enforcement to continue to work with them Every time I go down 615, I shoot my eyes back there to see if that situation is going on. So yeah, I'm hoping that with continued pressure from code enforcement and the fact that they're getting cited, that they'll start to come around and make some improvements and take care of their responsibility, because it is their responsibility to keep a safe and sanitary environment for the people who rent there. So we'll continue to be diligent on it.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Have
you,
a nice
Teresa.
evening.
We have another person, Thomas. Cody? Please state your name and address for the clerk.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Thomas Cody, 5936 South Shanda Boulevard. A year ago, City of Mentor spent $5 million on the Mentor Heisey Racquet Club to turn it into the Mentor Community Recreation Center. And I think you also approved a little bit over $1 million for renovations for such. Here we are, a year later, no Mentor Community Recreation Center. I think it was closed down. I was a member at the Mentor Heisey Racquet Club for probably over 20 years. I know at that time you kept it open and functioning as it was through April. Closed it down on May 1st, saying that you were going to do the renovations over the summer, and it would probably reopen early fall of last year. Obviously, here we are in January 2023, not open yet. I don't think we have a date for it being open yet. Seems to be that everybody's a bit evasive. It's like the thing, it's going to be great whenever we open it. And I get asked every day from people who I was members with at Mentor Heisey, the ones that haven't gone someplace else to this date, what's the status on the Community Rec Center? Nobody seems to know. There's a Facebook post that was updated, I think, August the 26th, and that is the extent of it. We don't know. I walked into the spa, which we can get in the front door, and the outer lobby is still all tore up. No sign of any tiling going on. I understand there's probably been problems with getting supplies and equipment and contractors, but it doesn't seem like they're making much progress. Obviously, it's not going to open in January. I highly doubt it'll be open in February. The sad thing is, you had a very good membership at the time, speaking as a tennis player and as a pickleball player and a swimmer and things. Had I known that it wouldn't be open for a year, I would have joined the Wellness Center, who wants $300 initiation and a year commitment, and I could have swam over there and worked out over there, but I thought, well, you know what? It's going to be open in the fall. I'll just hold on, and we'll see how that goes. And everybody's keep holding on, and people that I play tennis with, I can guarantee you the core members that have played, they've all joined probably Mayfield. So those people probably aren't coming back. Pickleball players I play with are always asking, where do we play at now? We've got no place to play. So they're trying to find wherever they can play indoors. So basically, I'm just trying to go back to the people that are asking me, saying, what the heck is going on? When do you think it's going to open? Is there some transparency for when it's going to open? We've seen a preliminary idea of what membership is going to cost, but there's rumors that, they're going to have golf simulators, and, nobody knows how many racquetball courts they're going to have. They're taking 2 tennis courts away, so we've heard everything. So I'm just here to say, I think the community is very anxious to get this open. And I think the community would appreciate some ongoing information and transparency to what is going on, what the problems are, when can we anticipate it going to open up.
Thank you, Thomas. Mr. Flippyak, you have a comment for Thomas?
I do. Thank you, Mr. President. So I was actually out there today,
Thank you.
and there's tremendous progress that's being made and work that happens every day. It's a 50-year-old facility, and council's aware that when we set up on the renovations, that the goal was to renovate once and not create too many disruptions once we do open. We're hopeful that we'll be open by the end of the first quarter. There will be some membership information that will, in fact, I had talked just today with our public information office about putting together a membership drive that will be starting probably next month, and some more information will become available.
Thank you, sir.
And follow that up by saying that I think what Mr. Cody said somewhat accurate in terms of we have been bogged down and are still bogged down with supply issues, finding contractors. I mean, a lot of what we have done has been documented and approved through council, but there is still work that needs to be done that we're having a very difficult time finding people to do.
I believe the exercise equipment finally came in, correct? The exercise equipment?
Exercise equipment's in.
Right.
But there's work that's ongoing that we still need to find people for. A lot of the work, as council is aware, has been done by internal staff, and I think the public will be very satisfied with the results. But yeah, we're excited. I'm glad to hear that there's excitement out there, and I think that any membership that may have been lost in the interim, I think we're very optimistic that we'll gain back over time.
Thank you, sir.
And one other comment I would make is that I know that you spoke about Silver Sneakers, and I don't, right now, I think that the plan is you're going to honor Ready Aware, which I think is a program offered by United Healthcare, and that will pay for the membership. I don't know if it's for Menor residents or for out of the city residents, but right now, Silver Sneakers will not be part of it. Obviously, $10 or $15 membership to the senior center is a lot different than a $250 membership to the senior center. And I don't know how the Medicare providers are reimbursing those, but I wouldn't think there's much difference between the Silver Sneakers benefit or the Ready Aware membership. That's United Healthcare. It seems like the majority of the providers are Silver Sneakers. And a lot of other rec centers that are around Greater Cleveland offer multiple type of programs. So hopefully you are in negotiations. Obviously, $250 for me is not a negative, and that's cheaper than my Heisley membership was. But on one hand, half the United Healthcare people will get their membership paid for. The Silver Sneakers people will not. So if you can do anything to get Silver Sneakers in there, that would be great.
Thank you, Thomas.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Council.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Julie, please
Going
call
to be
the
able
roll.
to get to the drugstore?